and few miracles result. When faith finds its proper place under divine law, there are no limitations, and what are called miraculous results follow. I love that because I love using that word miracle. I love saying that I know that miracles are happening. And to me, a miracle is simply allowing God's good to unfold. And God's good is natural. There are no miracles in God. We as humans perceive things as miraculous. We perceive the impossible that becomes possible as sometimes a miracle. And it's a great word. I love that word. It's a great word. It's gotten a bad rap, but I like that word. Miracles are occurring. When we decide to take a stand to thrive into our future, when we choose to have the faith find its proper place under divine law, there are two things that we must do. We must make bold promises. And the second thing is, we must make a commitment to act. So those are our two things we're going to get into now. But before we do, that principle is not bound by precedent. For those of you who are not familiar with science of mind, principle is the law that is always working. You know, those immutable laws that we speak of, the law of attraction, cause and effect, there are many of them. And so this is a law that is always working. And because it has worked one way, you know, the precedent has, well, the precedent, which has always gone on before, up until this moment, we're not bound by the way things have always been. We can create a new way of being. And it goes into the law which will bring into a manifestation that which seems like the impossible sometimes, because maybe, you know, we see past the numbers on the beeping machines and we don't pay attention to that. That's the way, those statistics, that's a good one, the statistics that have always been playing don't have to be the reality of what we create, because we are creating beyond precedent that which has taken place before. And principle, the law will respond and give to you like unto like. Okay, I had to get that out of the way. So it's time to thrive into the future by making a bold promise. When you make a promise, you bring forth a particular future. A particular future. And here's her book, Tracy Goss, in her Last Word on Power. That's the name of the book. Writes, instead of your word fitting the world, you design your promise as a world-to-word fit, a world-to-word fit. And another way of saying that is, you have the world lined up to fit the promise you have made. Focus only on what you want, she says. Refuse to see anything other than that. See past the seeming circumstances. And Ernest Holmes again writes, until we realize that our word has the power of life, we will not see clearly. The Bible points out that we have the same power in our own life and in our own world that it claims for God. The Word was with God, and the Word was God, is an oft repeated but little understood statement. The promise to us, he writes, is equality positive. The Word is nigh thee, even in thine own mouth, that thou shouldest know it and do it. So if any word has power, it follows that all words have power. This is still Holmes. It means that every word we hear, speak, or think has some power. Each of our words is creating. We are powerful, powerful creators. That's why, and I know for myself, working on languaging is so important, because to be cognizant of what we are thinking, of what we are speaking, of what we are feeling, that is power. There is creating. It's creating. So if we want to thrive, we want to make bold promises that lead us into that place of really, really thriving. The promise, that bold promise, is the tool you use to put your words into action. If you promise something, you are saying that you will do everything you need to do to live from that promise. Our words are extremely powerful. The boldness, that's a great word, the boldness of the promise is very important. A bold promise is a promise that you do not know how it's going to be fulfilled. And that predictably, you could not know the future. Some of us think we do know the future within a specific time frame. But the unknown is where all is possible. That's where the limitless possibilities that we describe as divine, that's where they lie, in the unknown. Because there is no unknown, as we've said before, in the mind of God. God knows all. God is all. This infinite creative being knows all and supports us as a God of goodness. My God is so good. It's the truth. In fact, in the context, if you are keeping all of your promises, then if you're keeping all of your promises, like they keep manifesting, then your promises are not big enough, according to Tracy Goss. They're not big enough. But by making a promise, you create an urgency. Isn't that great? When you make a bold promise, you are creating an urgency. And the Lord is responding to that urgency. And you fulfill that possibility, and it becomes an immediate priority. These promises must be made despite the fear you may feel. Because sometimes we make bold promises, and then there's like this welling up of like fear and old beliefs and, you know, all of that I'm not good enough stuff and oh, you'll never do this come creeping in. But you see beyond that, and you make that bold promise, and you believe it. You believe it. You construct these promises before you know what obstacles you will encounter. There is no question. There is no question. When we make a bold promise of any kind, we will encounter what looks like obstacles. Stuff comes up. Stuff comes up. The obstacles are an opportunity for us to develop our muscle of transforming the impossible into the possible. So when obstacles come up, don't look at them as, I shouldn't have done that, turn around and run the other way. It's merely an opportunity to move through what looks like an obstacle into the possibility of the limitless future that we all have. And some bold promises are like, make it for 5-year promises or 10-year promises. I never make a 10-year promise, but a lot of people do. They do all kinds of strategic planning, which is good. I don't think that, I'm not a strategic planner. No. For me, a year or two is good. I promise. So remember that the difference between a promise and a goal is your bold promises create a place to come from into the present, which we said, rather than the goal, which is a place to get to from there. The practice is best managed on a day-to-day basis. So we revisit those bold promises rather than simply saving them for a big occasion. Most of the time when we think about declaring what is possible, we think in terms of a really large future. And that's all well and good, but we need to also practice by making these promises smaller so that then we make these promises and we see them, you know, leading us in the direction. They get fulfilled, but there's still more because there's always more, and there's more, and there's more, and our faith deepens. And we continuously broaden and expand our promises, our bold promises to ourselves. When you make a promise, there are three possible outcomes. You keep your promise, keep it. That is, that you fulfill the conditions of the promise. It all comes in. I'll give you an example in a minute. You don't keep your promise. That's another option. And that is, maybe it's way past the due date. Maybe you said in a year this is what's going to happen. It didn't happen. And the promise has not been fulfilled, or you revoke it. So to revoke the promise is taking, and that's also taking an action. And you decide maybe that bold promise is not the one that's going to work for you. But in all three cases, no meaning is added to what happened. It is just what happened. What follows are three simple questions that you can ask yourself. And that is, one, what happened? And this is in all three modes of operating. What's missing and what's next? So what happened, what's missing, and what's next? In September, and this is my example to try to bring that into understanding for you. Last September, I made a bold promise that we were going to go to Sunday service every Sunday. That was my bold promise. And we were operating once a month on First Fridays for a couple of months. And the bold promise, without even knowing how or why, but just trusting and following the guidance of the divine mind, the intelligence that I absolutely believe in, it just unfolded. And it unfolded. In fact, it unfolded so quickly that we started 2 weeks earlier than November, because it was going to be in November, but we started in October. No. Yeah, we started the end of October. But we came every Sunday since November. So this is like, what are we, 7 months now? 7 months. It feels like 7 years. But the point, well, you know, I tell this to people because I can't keep up with my brain. Because the creative mind that I'm accessing is so filled with ideas that want to be implemented. And, you know, in this time-space reality, it looks like, to me, to my human self, I can't get it all done. But there's so much more. There's so much more of these beautiful, creative ideas that just keep flowing, and I know they're flowing from a divine mind. This whole thing is flowing from a divine mind. It did not flow from my intention to start a spiritual center, because I never intended on doing that a year ago. Just a year ago. That wasn't my intention. It was like, whatever God wants me to do. And so it unfolded. But it was a bold promise. And I did give it a time. November. It's a month, but that's the way that's the way that I function. You know, other people might do a year and do a lot of really, you know, foundational planning, which is great. Everyone operates differently, and that's all well and good. That's all perfect. But I had to get through a few striving strategies, and we have a little bit of what we call little growing pains maybe, but all in all, it's all so good. It's all good. You showed up today. We have a message. We have Retta. We have Reverend Jessica. We have Bill. We have all these beautiful faces. So, you know, this bold promise then became a reality. And the second part of that is making a commitment to action. So I could make a bold promise and then not do anything about it. And it just becomes nothing. It dissipates. Because action is always required. So whatever is necessary that I am guided to do, then that is the action that I will take in reference to my bold promise. So a lot of our bold promises, we do need to release some of the ego's little little things that might come up in the mind, and just if we just stay in alignment with that which our hearts really desire, what our hearts desire, and just know that all things are possible in God. The impossible most certainly does become the possible. And I love this passage from W.H. Murray's book, The Scottish Himalayan Expedition. And it talks about the powers of the universe that are called forth when we commit. He writes, until one is committed, there is the chance to draw back, always in effectiveness, concerning all acts of initiative and creation. There is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then Providence moves too.
It's true.
All sorts of things occur to help that would not otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from that decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which one could never have dreamed would come one's way. Whatever you can do to dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. So we make those bold promises to ourselves, to others, but we make them. We say them aloud because there's power in that. And then we commit to the action. Without this commitment to act, the possibility you declared, the bold promise you proclaimed, will never be transformed from a possibility, because everything is a possibility, into a reality. Into a reality. And remember, and it's very important to remember, the possibility of surprise and the lack of control. Not to let it lessen your commitment. Not to let it lessen it. And I truly felt and still do feel that joyful gathering is an idea in the mind, was an idea in the mind of God. I mean, it came forth through intention, but it came also into demonstration. It came into demonstration by God, because I was guided by supreme intelligence, and I listened, and I took action, and it became the demonstration a reality. And it's going to expand even more. This I can tell you. It's another bold promise. I am making a bold promise that this spiritual community is expanding right here, right now in consciousness. Right. And I am saying that within 5 years or less, we will have a spiritual home 24/7. One that is set up already with everything. Sound system. Jan? Where's Jan?
And so it is.
Set up, decorated, so we just walk in. That's my bold promise, and I'm making it in front of everybody right here, right now. And I say 5 years or less, because I believe that the impossible, what looks impossible, is so possible. Because what comes forward, as I read, is those unforeseen people and events and circumstances that you wouldn't even know about if you didn't step out and take that chance. And just let God guide you and then follow it. Terry Cole Whitaker writes in her book, Commitment Medicine, I know that I have what it takes to achieve my objectives, ideas, and my mission in life. Now I demand of myself total commitment and continuous action toward this attainment. I now promise to dedicate myself without reservation to the attainment of my objectives, ideas, and mission, because the dominating thoughts in my mind will produce themselves outwardly into physical action and results. I keep my mind positive and focused on my ideas and the image of my vision attained. There is no turning back, she says, or alternative, as the past no longer exists. The only way for me to go is forward, full speed ahead, toward the attainment of my objectives. I am confident, strong, and able. I am victorious. I think that is a powerful affirmation. I am confident, strong, and able. I am victorious. Isn't that beautiful? Mm-hmm. That is a powerful message that we give to the universal law that will bring back into our lives the most amazing results, the most amazing realities. One of the commitments to action that we really must take if we're going to thrive is to ask for help. Some people, they just don't ask for help. I know a couple of people like that. You know? And there is a difference between making requests and making demands. And Edwina Gaines goes around the country enrolling co-equal laborers in her mission of transforming the prosperity consciousness of this planet. That is her life's work. And she's out there asking for requests. She's asking for help. When you make a request, you're not trying to persuade, convince, or enroll others in trying to make them do what you want them to do. You are taking an action to move a declared possibility into a reality. You add velocity in moving the action forward by making requests and not reacting to the responses. Somebody says no, it's no. So you don't react to it, but you make requests. And if you don't think you need to make requests, ask for help. Your promises, again, are too small. They're too small. And if you only make the requests that you think will be accepted, rather than you actually want or need them, you're playing too small. So if you haven't noticed, I'm always making requests. And then I have Lisa Renee make those requests. And then I have everyone else around me, Wanda, make those requests, and Reverend Jessica make those requests. Because we request people to step forward into this unfolding of this spiritual community and share their gifts, share their talents with us. But if I don't make a request, then how can anyone answer this? Like Ernest Holmes says, the gift cannot be complete unless you receive it. So I do make requests. And in the time period, my time period is always now. It's always, can you do this now? Or can you do this like next week? Or sign up for it. As wonderful Lisa Renee, you might get a phone call from her, asking her, asking if you could step in and help. We have so many positions. There's a great little plug for volunteers. We have so many positions available in this community for you to become a part of, and you can't truly become a part of any community unless you're in service. And so that's my little plug. This is all about requests. So I'm requesting that. I'm requesting that you share your talents and your time and help us get our building 24/7. Yes. So your request should be very clear, very specific, and it's good to have somewhat of a time element in them to make them really strong and bold.